Namaskar and good day. My name is Zaffar Mohammed Gouse. I come from Australia, Melbourne. I used to work with the State Remote Sensing Center in Tamil Nadu at IRS Anna University, which is quite unique. Within the university, you have the State Remote Sensing Center as a custodian of spatial data. When I migrated to Australia in 2004, there was the Bush administration at that time when Landsat was having some sensor problems, and they communicated that the Landsat mission may not continue, and there was uncertainty. Australia had to rely on Landsat and was looking at alternatives. At that time, I got a call from Antrix, my colleagues, and said, we are quite interested in this opportunity. At that time, I was doing my PhD at Melbourne Uni, or university we call. Australians like to call things short. We had a startup company called Satellite Data Australia, and we bid, and there was other big players in Australia at that time. I'll just give a clue, it's from Europe, and they had their tracking stations where I had to bid with the support of ISRO, and we won the contract. For 3 years, Australian-Indian satellite, IRS P6, was downloaded in Australia for 3 years continuously as a backup and an alternative to Landsat. So folks, at that time, we never had these sort of forums. At that time, we did not have those clear policies and support. Where there is a will, the way that I won the contract on behalf of ISRO was to go and say, per square kilometer, Indian satellite data is 10 cents. And that really brought the attention of the Australian government. I think we cannot undermine the technology that ISRO and our four fathers in this space industry has provided. Just turning that into the current situation, for my daily job, I do advisory for governments and also have the opportunity to serve at the UN as a board for private sector and geospatial societies. I come from more the geospatial or the downstream segment. The UN motto is to look at leaving no one behind. I think India has a great potential in order to bring its experience, especially to build up. And also I would like to use this forum, that capacity building, that other countries, especially young nations who have started their space agencies, would come and get training from here. I think this is a great potential. But as previous speakers said, and especially I like to quote Dr. Goenka in his speech today, a clear roadmap is quite essential. As a consultant, when we work with governments and finance ministries, be it for World Bank, for developing countries, or developed countries' finance ministries, the first question the economists sitting there ask us about the sustainable financing that is required for any mission. Of course, the provenance of satellite data and technology is there, but it's more on how we kind of create the sustainable financing. And in the UN, this is one of the topics that we discussed 2 to 3 weeks ago in New York in the plenary. And the clear roadmap in Australia, we have a Space plus Spatial 2030 roadmap, not funded by the government. It is co-led by the industry, research sector, and professional bodies, not a cent from government, volunteer time. This roadmap was built in consultation, and I had the opportunity to be on the steering committee to provide an industry voice. So looking at government's direction always is not viable in this sector. The train has left the station. So the view that we need to bring across is a collaborative framework, that how we can come across collaboratively, be the academia, private sector, research, and government, in order to build a clear roadmap. And that roadmap has its objective. Things can change in the roadmap, but it's able to provide clear insights that are able to work through. I don't know what is the magic number of $12 billion. Australia also, the numbers reflect $12 billion by 2030, and we will have jobs, about 20,000 jobs. But How do we create this is also the same question we have, and it is other countries such as UAE and Middle East that have worked that they also, their space agencies are 2-year-old. So how do we collectively work through? And last week we celebrated the 75th independence of India in Australia, and we had the big Indian diaspora turnout. And one of the key messages to the newly elected government is how can we utilize the Indian diaspora who are in NASA, who are in European agency, and bring that collaborative approach, because as one of the Deloitte speakers said, let's open our doors for collaboration. Let's not reinvent the wheel. There are lessons to be learned from Indian experience, but there is also lessons to be learned from other people that we have worked through. Lastly, quoting Mr. Arunachalam, I think the FAIR principles are quite important to have the open data. And in Australia, we thought about 30 years of Landsat repositories there, and how do we take it to the common man? So we said we will calibrate this 30 years of Landsat data, put it in a data cube, and make it available to the citizens so that a farmer who is able to look at his mobile phone is able to look at what is the grazing land, because Australian farms are quite big. From one end to other end, it takes about 5 hours in the car. So how do we use these technologies to allow his grazing? So it's 30 years of Landsat data made available in a mobile phone, but government's investment was to make available the data. The private sector then helped build the applications on top of it. I think if that is what the ecosystem is, I think we need to look at investment into the infrastructure to support this ecosystem, and that's very critical. So we can develop a very good marketplace so that private sector can bring their data, government can bring their data, applications can develop. But underpinning infrastructure is quite essential in order to make this successful. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share my experience on the stage. I hand over back to the chairman. Thank you, sir.